All right. What do you have to do to really just get started if you have a computer? Well, you have to deal with all these questions. As an end user who doesn't really know what is a firewall, you're still asked to do all this, and you don't really have a way around it. So you need a firewall. You have to enable it. It's recommended. If you have a router, it's even better. Put that router, the firewall on the router, to enable that. If you're in a corporate environment, you don't really have a choice. You have to do that. You can't live without antivirus, right? Anti-spam, anti-spyware, VPN software, all these things that are structured around securing the user is something that the user neither understands nor is willing really to deal with. And sometimes what really bothers users is that they don't really know what each thing does. So if they have an antivirus, why do they need a firewall? Can they make something that does all this together in one setting, and then you just turn it on? Quite rigid, you know. They're forced into these things. They don't really like to do this or like to view this. I mean, who does? If you're not in security, why would you be interested in all this? And of course, throughout their experience, they're always asked about things they don't understand and have to pick the right answer. And they're always afraid, because if they give the wrong answer, something may go wrong, and then it's their fault. Okay, so a lot of this have to do with how actually people behave. And I thought I'd summarize some of the things that users do that relate very well to security. The first thing, the first item there, this is the name of the scientist who actually discovered this phenomenon. Now, most of this stuff is old. It's like 30, 40 years old. But in the last couple of years, security practitioners have discovered this. And then when they looked at it, oh, this actually makes sense. It makes sense when we apply it to security. So Ernst Lang discovered that once users become conditioned to doing something in a certain way, they like to do that in that way forever. They don't like to change. Now, even if you prove to them if what they're doing is actually wrong or negative to them, and you have a very good argument, they still do it the same way they did it. They like the status quo. So I have a couple of examples about that. For example, if you ask users, how many users actually, how many people hate their job? Actually, quite a large number hate their jobs. But they wouldn't change it because it's hard to change. It's hard to make them switch to a different job, although they know that it's going to be better for them. The default, this relates to the sort of the default settings. Once they see something or you're used to something, this is what they like to do and not change it. So if you can set up your application in a secure manner, and everyone has done that in the past, user would like it to be that way into the future. Another example why people like status quo, for example. In Europe, some countries in Europe, they actually, when it comes to donorship, organ donorship, the policy there is that unless you opt out, you're automatically approving that your organs will be donated. So in some of these countries, organ donorship is about 80%. Now in the US, it's the opposite. Unless you opt in, nothing will happen. So in the US, it's about 10%. And there are no difference in opinions about organ donorship. It's just that when you fill out the application, the default is different. And that's what makes people choose things differently. Another aspect that people also complain in security is that sometimes security conflicts with etiquette. Like, is it really polite to do this? If you're typing your password and your colleague's standing next to you, do you want to tell him or her, can you look away, please? Don't you to watch my, while I'm typing my password? Or if you enter a building, you have a badge, you enter a building, someone right behind you, what should you do? Hold the door or close it? It's polite to hold the door, but maybe not secure. Who knows who that person is, right? Could be someone else. The other thing that humans do is that they're very good at rationalizing things. They can come up with an explanation for just about anything. So when they're asked about security, for example, in one instrument, they were asked after their computers were infected, and the infection and the malicious software was doing some weird things that was supposed to be noticed by users. The majority of users were able to explain the changes in the behavior of the computer in a positive manner. Most of them said, well, it runs a little slow, but it's fine otherwise, you know. So even though they can see something that may raise a flag, they're very capable of coming up with a good explanation for bad things. And that's not unique to a group of people. That's sort of a general characteristic of just all humans. When they try to make decisions, I'm above average. Let me ask this question. If you consider yourself above average of what you do, can you raise your hand? You're all average? Okay. Well, when people ask in general, again, surveys, do you consider yourself above average in this or that, in relationships, in some aspects? Always the majority say yes. But if they're asked, what do you think about others? They rank them less than average. So people generally have a good opinion about themselves, and they believe what they state, what they do when it comes to security questions is the right thing, although they don't know. Another thing that affects security is that humans are really bad at assessing threat. So a question for users not related to computer security, but physical security. What is it that you're afraid of most of the time that may kill you? A majority of people will say terrorism, right? While in reality, terrorism ranks very low in a list of leading causes of death. I have heart disease, cancer, car accidents. But if you take that data and show it to the users, see here they're actually leading 10 causes of death. What are you still afraid of? They'll still say terrorism. So even in front of the evidence, in the face of evidence, they still want to change their mind. So when we think about, oh, you have to be careful, go ahead.
But the question is why they're afraid of terrorism, right? Again, some sort of conditional, right? So you, by educating them, you can recondition.
It's not conditioning. It's a risk evaluation.
Risk evaluation.
Yeah. There's actually some very interesting stuff. If you've ever read Against the Gods, it's a great book. There's actually a particular explanation about that specific situation of being afraid of getting hit by lightning versus anything else. It's how we evaluate risk and what we perceive to value. So if you die of a heart attack, everybody dies of a heart attack, right? You can't fix it.
That's true. So if you take that and apply it to security threats, it's not easy for some of you may already have this problem. How do we convince our corporate sponsors or business users there's actually a reader threat outside, and we have to do something about it?